Testing. 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 All right, we're working. Happy Friday. It's the last day of the week, and we're going to close things off with a nice, comfy, cozy coding stream. So we're just going to be working on the Discord bot that we've been working on, but feel free to interrupt. You know, if there's interesting things that you want to talk about, we can definitely talk about that. So first things first, let's git pull here. Make sure we're using the latest version of our repo. And let's also open up a Discord here, just so we can do this later. Got it. Don't switch. Bot debug. Okay. So I went ahead yesterday and added a bunch of to-dos all over the code here, so we should have a bunch of stuff to keep us busy. Hello, Erland Hillman. How's it going? First thing we kind of want to do here is I think I changed some stuff in the code, so I'm thinking it might not even work. And maybe just to give people some background, you can go into my GitHub and you can find this project. It's called Hupo Paperbot. So feel free to go there if you're interested in the actual code. Let's come here, Control-Shift-1, which I have as a hotkey to run. So I got to make sure to use my profile correctly. That's the right profile. Let me close out of that. Let me open up. Jesus Christ. My fingers aren't warmed up. All right. Control W, Control P, run.py, and then Control-Shift-1. Why is this not working? What is going on? Profile default. Profile. Ook. Accounts. There we go. Okay. All right. Paperbot has entered the chat. Good stuff. Let's see. I was messing with the local database object here that we had. I don't think we need this inherits from object here. We could probably just do that. Say at paperbot, list the papers. Okay, that still seems to work fine. At paperbot. What are some sources for paper? Okay, error it out. Received message. List papers. Running behavior, list papers. Okay. All right, so it seems to be working fine. I made some changes, so I just wanted to make sure that I didn't actually kill it. So why don't we Control F here, and let's Control F for all the to-dos, and we'll see what I had. Okay, so here's a little to-do that I put. I wanted to create a decorator that times functions and adds log statements. So what a decorator is it's a modifier basically that you can add to a Python function. So we can actually ask Let's ask Bard and ChatGPT. Let's see which one comes up with a better decorator. So let's say, can you write me a Python decorator that uses the time module to time the duration of a function call? I also want to use the logging module with an object called, let me move this over here so you guys can see. Sorry about that. With an object called log. With calls to log.info that print out the name of the function being called as well as the duration. The name of this decorator should be, what are we going to call this decorator? Time and log. Alright, so let's copy this prompt. We'll give it to Bard, and then let's also give it to GPT, see which one does the better one. Alright, so obviously Bard's a little bit faster, so let's look at its function first. So define time and log. You see here at wraps. So this is the actual decorator here. The decorator kind of passes the args and quargs directly to the function, which is what we want. It's keeping track of a start time, it's keeping track of an end time, and then it just simply gets the difference between them and prints out the log. It didn't use so we asked it specifically to use log.info, right, because we have an object called log, but it did not do that. It called logging.info, so that's a little bit of a mistake there. It also didn't use f strings here. It used a kind of a slightly older format called .format. But other than that, this seems pretty fine. Let's see what ChatGPT gave us. So ChatGPT used similar thing. It got the name right. It created the log object for us. So you see how ChatGPT actually did this part correctly, where it created this log.info. The actual function wrapping here with the timing is pretty much identical. And you see, look at this. It also used f-string formatting. So actually, in this case, GPT is better. Let's copy that. Let's use GPT's answer. So we can come here, we can do this. We're going to need to import. Up here, we're going to import time. Import time. We can actually copy the imports from here. We already have logging, but we didn't have that wraps. Time and log decorator executed function execution time. I think this is a little bit wordy. Let's make it calling blank duration blank. All right, perfect. And let's take this decorator here, time and log, and then we'll add it to a couple different things here. We can add it to this one, for example. And this is how you add a decorator. And you can add multiple decorators if you wanted to. You could have like 10 different decorators in there. So it's a very useful pattern. Hey, Idris, how's it going? And I mentioned it at the beginning of this chat, but this is meant to kind of just be more of a hangout and chill kind of chat. So if you guys have any questions or you want to talk about anything, feel free. Let's add it to this add paper function, to this list paper function, to this share sources function, to this author info function, to this chat function, and I think that's pretty much good. All right, let's save. Let's also click here, and then you do format document. That'll make sure that all the spacing is correct, and then let's also do sort imports here. And VS Code here is giving us two different choices, so these are two different ways of organizing imports. Rough is a linter, package, and then isort is a different linter package. So I don't know, let's use isort. Why not? And you can see up here that isort has kind of reorganized our imports. So let's save. Let's Control-Shift-1, which is the hotkey I have for automatically debugging the open Python file. And Paperbot has entered the chat. Let's say at Paperbot list the papers. Okay, so at Paperbot list the papers. Yeah, I don't know why sometimes it just doesn't get the, I think like Discord API is kind of buggy sometimes. Okay, but you see the first one here, receives the message, receives the meshes, mentioned in message, calling GPT text. Here you go, boom. So this is the decorator that we just added, right? It gives you the duration. So 0.61 seconds for GPT text, and then 1.66 seconds for the list paper. Actually, this is e to the -06. Also, why don't we format this? I don't like how many decimal places we have, and you can actually quite easily do that. It was on its union break. I don't know if there's unions for AIs, but maybe. So one thing you can do, I think, you can do %.2f, something like that. I think maybe it's just 0.2f. Actually, you know who would know this? Bard is going to know this. So let's go here. Let's go here. Let's say, can you edit this Python log statement to only show 2 decimal places? I think it's 0.2 colon. Oh my god, it's using round? Dude, this is gross. I don't want to use round. Let's see if ChatGPT makes a better choice. Yeah, this is what I wanted. There you go. So ChatGPT 2.0 right now this morning. You know, I feel like in previous coding streams, I've always I've kind of been leaning towards Bard because it kind of tends to give you better answers whenever you're asking about existing Python packages. But currently, right now, ChatGPT with the win. So there we go. That's correct. So let's go ahead and Control-Shift-G, and that'll open up our side panel here to the GitHub or Git. So we can add this file, which adds the changes to that, and then let's say decorator for timing and logging. We'll go ahead and commit that. All right, we got it. So now let's kill this. Let's Control F. Let's Control F for to do, and let's hit that enter, and let's see what we get here. All right, so we got another to do here. Return with some kind of sorting. So we have a function that lists all the papers in our little local DB, which is a fake local database based on a CSV file. So it'd be nice if we could make a way to return the rows but sort it on something. So I think that's just a matter of knowing which pollers function to call. It's probably just some core here, right, where you could say like sort or something like that, right? What other to-dos do we have? We have a refactor to account for multiple columns. This is a hack that we were doing last week and a fix for that. Let's see if there's anything else. every X seconds automatically post to the channel. Ooh, that could be kind of cool. So why don't we actually try this one first? Because I think let's get our database correct, and this is probably the lightest, the smallest vector database you could ever think of right here. This little local DB that we made. You know, I kind of don't like this name, so why don't we do this? Why don't we go here and ask GPT, new chat. Let's make this bigger. I have a Python class called localDB that represents a tiny local database stored inside a single CSV file built on top of polars, of the polars package. What are 5 other names for this class that are better? Let's see what names we get. And let's see what names Bard gives us. CSV database, Polars local store, mini CSV DB, file-based DB, Polar CSV manager. I don't like any of those. I kind of like CSV database, but that's not that great either. Single file DB, CSV DB, Polars DB, local Polars DB, tiny DB. You know which one I like the most? I kind of like TinyDB the most. So let's copy that, and let's come here, and you double click on that, you hit F2, and it allows you to rename that. So we're going to put in TinyDB, we're going to hit enter, and every single time that local DB is referenced in our file, it's going to be replaced with TinyDB. So you see here inside these function calls, the types for the DB object are now of type TinyDB. So just some little formatting there. You know, I'm all about formatting, to be honest. Like, I think there's a difference between programming for pleasure and then programming for a purpose. And choosing the names of things and changing the names of things are quite good. Thanks for making these videos. Watching the step-by-step process, including the troubleshooting, is really helpful. Thanks, Glenn. I appreciate it. You know, I feel like in today's society, people are afraid of looking stupid, you know, and if you look at a lot of content, it's filtered and edited to make the person look as smart as possible, right? But then you never really get a real idea of what it's like to actually do something, right? It's like, wouldn't it be nice if you could actually look at someone actually doing their job and they were telling you their thought process out loud, right? I feel like that's kind of the content I'm trying to create. Like, what does it actually look to program? What does it actually feel like to read a paper for the first time, right? Not, here's me giving you a 10-minute summary of the paper trying to sound as smart as possible, right? So, I don't know. I'm not afraid of looking stupid, I guess is what I'm saying. Okay, so let's get this one. List papers, return with some kind of sorting. Let's copy this. Let's come here, and let's ask both ChatGPT and Bard if we can sort this. I have a function for a class that, actually we can actually keep this. Below is a function for a Python class. Let me paste that in, and then let me actually copy the part that we had here. Yeah, right here. Below is a function for a Python class called localDB that represents a, we don't actually need the name, so let's get rid of that. Actually, let's call it TinyDB. that represents a tiny local database stored inside a single CSV file built on top of the pullers package. The database stores archive papers in a CSV file. The function below, called list papers, returns the rows of the CSV file. Could you modify this function such that it optionally takes a kwarg that represents a column name, comma, and returns and yields the rows sorted by that column name. Make sure to check the column name, check that the column name exists. All right, and then we have our thing. So let's copy all of that. Let's go into ChatGPT. Let's put it in there as well. Make sure we use GPT-4. GPT-4 is way better at programming than GPT 3.5. All right, so we'll let both of those munch on it. Deadly data. I'm actually an undergrad student hoping to go to grad school with a concentration in AI/ML, and watching you go through research papers and code helps, even though some things I don't understand well. I think it's refreshing. Appreciate these streams. Thank you for the kind words. All right, so what do we got here? We got Bard's answer. Define list papers. We see that it is taking a argument, but you see I told it to make a kwarg, right? Take a kwarg, but this is not a kwarg. This is an arg. You see how there's no equal sign? There's no default there. Okay, it returns a dict, so it gave us the type there. What else did it do? For column name, or if column name not in self.dm columns, raise a value error. That seems fine. Bard, again, using the string formatting. I don't like this string formatting there. Self.df, sort by column name dot iter rows named equals true. Okay, so we don't actually know if this one is correct, to be honest. This might be a pandas function. It might not even be a pollers function. We'll have to see. And then for row and rows, yield row. Okay. So what did ChatGPT give us? Self, sort by. Okay, so this is a kwarg. So you see that. And not only is it a kwarg, but it also got the type right. It's optional, which is correct. You see here how the answer that Bard gave us is not optional. It's an argument and it's required, and there's no default. So this is already better. It also decided to give us the type of the return, which is this. This is what this function is going to return. If sort by in self columns, sorted df, else raise value error. Else sorted df equals self.df, sorted df.iter rows named true. I actually kind of like this one the best. Let's do that one again. 3-0 for ChatGPT this morning. You see here how this is red now. That's because we don't have it, so we're going to have to go up to our import statements, and we're going to have to put that in there. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, so it should be right here. Got to make sure to put these in alphabetical order. List papers, and then sort by. Let's make the default maybe sort by the title, just so it's easy for us to identify. So we'll have a default sort by here, and we'll do title. So by default, it'll always be sorted by the title. Save, Control-Shift-1. Sometimes it doesn't work. Control-Shift-1, there you go. Okay, Paperbot has entered the chat. Let's ask it to list the papers. List, or at Paperbot. List the papers. And there you go. You see how it used to be not sorted by anything. So you have STRESE, and then now when it returns the papers, it will automatically sort by the title of the paper. So you have RE, SE, and ST. So nice little sorting behavior there. So whenever this pops up, it's really annoying to like have to move your mouse all the way over here and click this X. So you can hit Control and then the tilde, and it'll close that. So a couple different shortcuts that I think are very useful in VS Code. You have Control B to open up the side panel. You have Control Shift E, which opens up the kind of like file browser. You have Control Shift G, which opens up the GitHub panel. You have Control tilde, which opens up the outputs and the terminals and stuff like that. Right? You can hit all of those again to hide them. And then, of course, you have your standard Control F, Control Shift F, Control Shift H. Those are find, replace, different variants of that. All right, so let's do Control Shift G, and we'll say sort papers by title by default. Commit, sync changes. Am I working off of a VM? No. So the current setup I have, this is a Ubuntu system. This is a Linux. I think it's called Jellyfish or something like that. And I'm using a what's called a VNC. I think it's called. It's a virtual. It's basically like a remote desktop software, and I have it installed on my Windows computer, and I also have it installed here. And when I run it, I can basically pipe my screen into my Windows computer. So my OBS, the YouTube stream, the microphone, the camera, all of the kind of like media stuff is on my Windows computer. And then I'm receiving the screen from my Linux computer, which is where I'm doing all my programming. So all this computer here is just a Linux, it's just Ubuntu, which I've been using for a very long time now. Since I was a wee child, I was using Linux. And not even just because I knew anything, it's just because it was literally free. You know, like Linux, you can just put it on a USB flash drive and you don't have to pay whatever it is, like $100 for a Windows OS. But the only negative with Linux is that you can't really do anything other than just program on here, you know. You can't really play games or anything like that. I've been searching for a new terminal for years in order to pull up the terminal on the bottom bar. Yeah, there's some people that are all about these terminals. I generally tend to be a little bit more old school, and I actually like to use terminals like this, you know, like the actual Linux terminal. But there's people who like never use the Linux terminal or the Mac terminal if they're programming on Mac, and they do everything inside this terminal here. I just think that sometimes like doing stuff in this terminal like starts to clutter your screen. You know what I'm saying? Like you start to have too many things open, and it's easier to just alt tab and then have a full clear screen. Okay. Let's go to the next to do here. Let's Control F to do. Let's do this one. Okay, so we were doing a similarity search, which is a way of finding related papers. So the way that we were doing the similarity search is we have this function called getEmbedding, and if we hit Control and then we can click on this on the name of this function, it'll take us to this function definition. So that's a nice little trick there. And if you hit Control and then click on it again, it'll actually show you all the different places where this function gets used. Right? So that's a little tip there. So this function getEmbedding takes a paper, which is a archive.result, which is basically an object defined here inside the archive package, an entry in an archive query. So this is actually whenever you query the archive database for a specific paper, this is what it returns, and it has a couple different things. It has the ID, it has a date, time, title, a list of authors, summary, etc. Right? So what we're doing is in this getEmbedding function is we're taking that paper, we're taking the name of a model, in this case embedding model from OpenAI, and we're using the OpenAI API to create an embedding from the summary of this paper, right? So the summary of this paper is basically the abstract. Actually, what we can do is come here, put a breakpoint right there, and then we'll be able to see exactly what the things look like. So let's go here, get embedding paper, and then let's put a breakpoint here as well. So we're going to step through that and see exactly what that looks like. In order to pull up the terminal on the bottom bar, I'm half and half. Yeah, so you're kind of programming like this. There was like a period in time where I actually had the vertical screen. Like that was kind of a great. It's a hack too. You can take your monitor and rather than have it in the wide resolution, put it in the vertical resolution, and then you can basically see more of your code. It also works very well for reading papers, but unfortunately, the problem with that is that YouTube and any kind of streaming software requires horizontal, like the horizontal wide view. So you can't stream in vertical view, or else that would be great. Okay, let's hit Control-Shift-1 again to run this. Paperbot has entered the chat. Let's go ahead and find some random paper. So let's go over here. Let's do papers with code. Segment anything in high quality. Let's go ahead and click that. We'll go to the actual PDF here. If you go to an archive link, can I like zoom in on this? But if you go to an archive link and you get rid of this .pdf, okay, I guess it doesn't matter. All right, so let's say at paperbot, and then we'll give it that link. And when we give it the link, it's going to run the behavior add paper. It'll say it's already been posted. Okay, so we already have that paper in our database. Let's try to find some other paper. What's one that we don't have? Okay, we definitely don't have this one. SPQR, a sparse quantized representation. I don't think I've even seen this one before. So let's hit the PDF for this one. Let's control copy. Let's say at paperbot, and let's give it that one. Running behavior add paper, so you can see it's adding our paper. And there we go, hit the breakpoint. So as soon as you hit the breakpoint, it takes you back to VS Code, and VS Code is telling you, hey, I was running this Python code, right? And I hit this point. And that's actually one important thing to realize is that whenever you're programming in Python, there's basically one thread that goes through the entire code, right? It's called the global interpreter lock, right? And what it means is that if you have something that's blocking, pretty much it's going to block until everything. There's ways to get around that, like the async and so on, but the reason that Python is very easy to debug is because of this global interpreter lock, right? You don't have to worry about weird race conditions or memory getting overwritten by different things. But the negative is that it's very slow because everything has to go through this global interpreter lock. So Python's superpower is also its biggest weakness. I was actually using an Oracle VM to run Ubuntu on a class lab, but the code that it ran ended up downloading some 100 gigabyte package. It doesn't even boot up anymore. Yeah, you're talking about a virtual machine on top of a Windows machine. Yeah, if you want to have both Ubuntu and Windows on the same machine, I would advise dual boot, which is basically you partition your hard drive into a Windows machine and a Linux machine, and then basically every time you turn on your computer, you can pick which one you want. I ran that setup for years. The negative is that you constantly have to turn off your computer and turn it back on every time you want to switch from playing games to programming, but Linux is pretty good now anyways, so I mean, like the Discord works in here, your browser is going to work in here. The only thing that doesn't work is games. Okay, so here's the paper. If we actually do paper.summary, for example, let's go into this debug console here, and we can say paper.summary, and you can see here's the actual summary of the paper. This is the abstract, so if we actually go to the paper itself, it's this exact same thing here. Recent advances in LLM pre-training, blah, blah, blah. Recent advances in LLM pre-training have led to, and actually you can see the new lines. So you see these dash n's, these are new line characters, which, right, so it knows this. High high dash new line, high. Ooh, so it's actually not exactly the same. You see how here the new line goes right in between the high quality, but here the new line goes before that. Okay, so that's what we're giving to the OpenAI embedding. Then we're going to hit Control-Shift-1, which keeps it going. And now we're here, right? So if you actually look at what this embedding looks like that OpenAI gave us, that's what an embedding looks like, right? So every time, if you've ever watched one of my paper streams and I talk about embeddings or vectors, latent vectors, this is what it actually looks like. It's just basically a bunch of numbers, ideally centered around 0, right, with a mean of 0 and then a unit variance, which means that these numbers, you see, they're all relatively close together and nice, right? You have, maybe here's a really tiny number, -2.9, but most of these are going to be ideally straddling the 0. So you have -0.04 and so on. And there's going to be different sizes for embeddings, right? Every single model is going to have potentially different sizes and different, but here this one is 1536 is the length of this embedding. So there's 1,536 numbers. All right. So now let's hit next again. And I guess we never got to the similarity search. So add paper, it added the paper. When does this similarity search function get called? Let's do that. Let's click on that. It only gets called here. Okay, so whenever you add a paper, adds the paper, looking for similar papers. Oh, okay, here you go. Here's the error. Discord client, run event, Discord bot token, self.run forever. Heartbeat blocked for more than 230 seconds. Okay, so this is the problem. I think we timed out the Discord. Okay, let's get rid of these breakpoints in our get embedding function. So in VS Code here in the corner, you can actually see the breakpoints, and you can hit here and it'll clear all the breakpoints. You can have that bound too. So it's all about having a bunch of keybinds. That's how you get fast, you know. And there's a rich tradition of being a keybind master. People who know what Emacs and Vim are, those are like very old IDEs, but they're all about different keybinds. And my favorite thing to use is a MMO mouse. So these mouse, you can basically keybind all these to different things. So I have debug program, run debug, next debug, open, close, like different things like that. You just bind it all to your mouse or specific keybinds, and then you can do everything a lot faster. Yeah, it's a great mouse. All right, so let's kill this, which I have bound to Control-Shift-8. So Control-Shift-8 kills the current debug in my situation. So we got rid of these breakpoints. Let's go ahead and put a breakpoint here and here. And probably here as well. Let's do that. Control-Shift-1 to run it again. Let's come here. Paperbot enter the chat. And let's give it another paper. Let's give it Video Llama. How about this one? PDF. Copy that. At Paperbot. There you go. Running behavior, add paper. All right. So we're here. We're adding the paper. Let's hit Control-Shift-1. Added the paper. Calling summarize paper. So you see summarizing the paper took 2.39 seconds, but actually the majority of that was just this GPT text call. Error in event on message. Okay, so it's running somewhere here. Await channel send, adding paper ID. Error in event on message. Okay, so I think we have an on error function here that's not actually doing anything. Yeah, so you see here this on error. This is, we didn't get any trace back. So whenever you run into an error, you want what's called the trace, right? Which is basically telling you this function failed, and this function failed because this function failed, and this function failed because this function failed, and it allows you to trace that error all the way back to the original thing. And sometimes when you're using Python packages that are kind of a little sketchy, like this Discord Python package, like they lose that trace, and they'll just kind of like, it'll lead you to a dead end that doesn't go anywhere, and that's kind of what happened here. So we're gonna get rid of this crap here, this on message crap, and it'll probably be more descriptive. Control save, Control Shift 8 to kill it, Control Shift 1 to restart it, and let's do it again. At paperbot. All right, we added the paper, that's fine. Found paper, added the paper. All right, boom, here you go. Unable to append to a data frame of width 10 with a data frame of width 12. Okay, so what happened here? What happened here is that our local database, right, which is literally just a CSV file, this is what our database looks like. We've been adding stuff to it pretty much the whole week, right? But when we were adding stuff to this previously, we had a different set of columns, right? And you can't take a data frame that has one set of columns and just vertically stack it with a data frame that has a different set of columns, right? So you need to have all your columns be consistent. And often when you change this in a actual company, it's basically called a database migration, and you accumulate these over the life of the company. But rather than doing a database migration here, because we don't actually give a shit about this papers.csv database, we can just straight up delete it, and then it should be fine. You know, just delete your entire database and restart from scratch. Hello ASDF, you have the best name on YouTube. All right, here we go. Paperbot has entered the chat. At paperbot, consume that it's running the behavior add paper. We're going to hit the breakpoint soon. Oop, nope, here we go. Object of type none type has no length. Okay, so here in line 256 of run, so you can actually click on this and it'll take you to that exact line. So we see here, it's trying to find the length of this self.df, but the self.df is none because we deleted the file, right? So we need to make sure that self.df is not none. So what we're going to say is we're going to say if self.df is none, or length of self.df equals 0. So if you have an empty data frame or the length of that data frame is 0, don't try to find the paper, right? So let's do that. Let's kill it. Let's rerun it. No alembic for poor little tiny DB. I was almost thinking like maybe we just release this as an actual thing, right? Like, wouldn't there be a use for a tiny little local DB like that? I feel like there could be a use for that. All right, Control Shift 1, Control Shift 1, Control Shift 1. All right, it's adding the paper. None type has no attribute vstack. All right, so now the problem is that whenever you're creating or adding a paper for the very first time and there's nothing else in your database, here this vstack doesn't matter, right? So we need to put a condition as well here. So if self.df is none, self.df equals df, else vstack. So if there's already a data frame, then vertically stack this new one onto it. If there isn't a data frame, then just set it equal to that. Let's kill it. Control Shift 8. Then Control Shift 1 to rerun it. At paperbot, paste this paper again. God, my highlighting skills are garbage. I'm gonna do that. All right, add paper, Control Shift 1. It's going. All right, looking for similar papers, that's what we want. Similarity search, that's what we want. And rather than step over, so normally what you would do is you would hit this continue, but that'll just go to the next breakpoint. But what we want to do is we actually want to go into this function here, this similarity search function. So we're going to hit this, step into, and that'll go into this function. All right, so now we're in this function, and we have our paper, and let's get the embeddings for this. Okay, so what is our embedding? See, so this is already wrong. This embedding is of type np.endArray, right? So if we come here and we say type of this embedding, it's a list, and type of embedding 0 is a float. Okay, so this is actually a list of floats. So let's go ahead and put that in there. So let's do this. Embedding is a list of floats. And you don't need to do this. You don't need to have a type on this variable, right? Like that's the magic of Python. You don't need to be typing things like this. But I just like doing this so that if somebody else comes and reads this code, it's very obvious to them. They don't have to know what this function is. They just can see this and they're like, oh, okay, I get what this does. All right, so because we have a list of floats already, we no longer need to do this crap hacky stuff that we were doing before here. df embeddings equals np array float. We don't need this either. What is self.df embeddings? Like, what's the format of this? Self.df embeddings is a 1536 by that. What do we do this? Let's do self.df embedding transpose. Yeah, series object has no attribute t. What if we try to make that into np.array? That actually works fine. All right, so let's do that. np dot of np.array df embeddings. And let's also do this. Let's also overwrite the original one here with an np array. So we're getting our embeddings from this function. It returns a list of floats. We're converting it into an np array. Then we're taking the all the embeddings in the current data frame, right, which is our database. We're turning that into an array. We're doing a dot product, right, where you're basically saying that embedding multiplied by every other embedding in the database, you're transposing this so that you get the right matrix multiply kind of dimension. This isn't exactly cosine similarity. You would need to divide by the magnitude of these. And then you're finding the top k related one. So here's where you could say, hey, I want to find the top 2 or top 3 or top whatever. So let's just save and go from there. Let's clear all of our breakpoints and then put a breakpoint right here, right? This is where we want to pop up. So close that, kill this, and then run here. Paperbot has entered the chat. Copy the paper link. At Paperbot, send it. Running behavior add paper. Take a little sip of yerba mate here. Too many returns. All right, so where is this failing? self.df.row by predicate pl.call id equals id. Oh yeah, that's right. I remember why we were doing that hacky shit. Okay. So the problem is right here. You see, the problem is whenever we create this data frame, this get embedding here, it tries to stick this giant list of embeddings, list of floats in here. And what ends up happening is it ends up creating a bunch of rows for each of the elements in here. So we're going to have to do something a little bit gross here. We're going to say data. We're going to copy this here. We come up here. And then this part here, we're going to turn it into a little comprehension here. Say for I val in enumerate get embeddings. And then we're going to add a column specifically for that embedding index. So rather than having 1,500 floats as a list inside a single column in the CSV, we're going to break up each of those 1,500 floats and put them in their own column, and the name of the column is going to basically be embedding underscore that. And then we're just going to use this data object, and we're just going to create the data frame out of it. So one thing you might notice is I sometimes use this underscore pattern here. And what this underscore pattern, there's no actual formal kind of like reason to do this. It doesn't change the way that your code works at all. Generally, what I'm trying to do when I do this underscore pattern is basically say I'm communicating to another human who's reading this code that this function, this variable right here, I don't care about it, right? It's basically, it's going to get thrown away. It's locally scoped. So I use it for like trash variables like this underscore data or this underscore df, right? But I don't know. Some people don't like this pattern. Some people think this just makes stuff more confusing, this underscore pattern, but I kind of like it. All right, so we're going to save that. And because we changed our database, right? We changed the nature of our database. We're going to have to delete our database again. So let's do Control-Shift-E to open up the file browser, and let's go ahead and delete our database. All right. So we've deleted our database. We've changed it to this thing here. This is no longer going to be correct. We basically need to, yeah, we're going to have to put a breakpoint here because we're going to basically have to get all of the columns of this, right? So let's run this. at paperbot, give it the link to the paper. Running behavior, add paper, adding paper, boom. All right, now we hit it here. So you see the problem here is that self df embedding, it's going to say no column embedding, right? Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, column not found embedding. So we need to basically get every single column here, right? So how do we get every single column for this? All right, so we could do like a list comprehension. We could do something like this, right, where you can basically say like an f string embedding x, like that. But then we need to keep track of how many embeddings there are. I think you might be able to search for all columns that match. So let's see if we can get ChatGPT and Bard to come up with a clean one line solution for this. So let's go ahead, let's reset the chat. Can you modify this line of Python code that returns a group of columns or a subset of a data frame which contains all columns called embed, what do we call it? Embedding x, where x is in range of 0 to 15. What was the 1538? Something like that. I forget the exact dimension. I want you to write it in one line of code. Make sure that the output is a NumPy array. All right, so that's not necessarily the best set of instructions there, but let's see what Bard can do with that. So we're going to give that to Bard, and then we're going to give the same thing to GPT here, and we'll see which one does better. All right, so obviously Bard's very quick, so it's probably already done. Let's see. NP array. Okay, so you see it did actually go for the list comprehension that we were talking about, right? So that's what Bard did. Let's see if ChatGPT found something better. No, it did the same thing. Okay, so the answer that we came up with is exactly the answer. Oh, you can use dot values. Is that kosher? Let's see. Can I just do this? 1536. I think it stops at 15. Actually, we can just do this. What is the length of embeddings? $15.36. Okay, so there should only be 1536. Yeah, data frame object has no attribute value. So this is the problem, is that ChatGPT is outdated, right? It's not trained on the most recent data. So it actually, as soon as you said data frame, in its head, it thought pandas, right? So dot values only works for pandas, but we're not using pandas. We're using polars, which is a different, it's kind of like a pandas clone, but it's like basically a little bit faster. So let's go ahead and copy the Bard solution here. So the Bard solution goes from 0 to, actually this is, you don't need this 0 here, you can just do that. All right, so there you go. DF embeddings is an array. So I think we were 3-0 for ChatGPT. Now it's 3-1 for ChatGPT versus Bard. Let's copy paste that, put that there. DF embeddings, can we actually do this? Embedding times DF embeddings. Yep, there you go. There's your similarity. Of course, it's going to be a very high number because there's only one paper in this database. So this, if you similarity search this database for the with the embeddings, the similarity is basically going to be high. So we're going to save by that. Let's make sure these other lines of code work, just so we don't have to debug this. Name cosine sim is not defined. Let's put this here. Okay, let's put this here. And let's put this here. Okay, all of these work. So another thing that we have to account for here is that this K, there might be more papers, or there might be less papers than there are K. So one thing we have to say is, let's set K equal to 3 for a default, and then we'll say if self, I guess this is fine, we should do that, but K is equal to the min of the K in the length of the data frame. So if there's more than 3 papers, then return the top 3, but if there's less than 3 papers, just return however many there actually even are. All right, so now let's actually go to similarity search. This is accounting for the fact that you are going to receive a bunch of different papers. Then it's going to give you the embed, and there you go, similar papers. Okay. So let's close out of that. Let's close out of that. Let's run it. Actually, let's kill it, and then let's kill all of our breakpoints. We don't need the breakpoints anymore. Let's run it. Move this to the side. Let's copy this thing. Let's say add paperbot. Let's give it that. Paper was already posted. Okay, let's add more papers. Is there more papers? Here's some more papers. At paperbot, add that paper. Writing behavior, add paper. Adding paper, looking for similar papers, and then here you go. Here, those are the similar papers. What about this one? At paperbot, put that one in there. And then let's also put this one in there. At paperbot, and put that one in there. All right, nice. So one thing that I like how it's returning the papers, but I don't like that I have no idea how similar these papers are. So we kind of want to return the actual similarity score, right? So let's go ahead and do that. So let's come over here. Let's close this, close that, save, kill it with Control-Shift-8. Now we just have our nice little thing. Whenever we do the similarity search, where is it? Over here. Yield from self.db, it arose. So instead of doing this, let's actually make this a tuple. So you can basically say zip, and zip will construct tuples. And we want to construct a tuple where we basically have the cosine similarity as well. What if we do this? Fill in here. Let's do this. And let's actually use Bard. So reset the chat. Let's make this big. Can you fill in below is a Python function that returns the a subset of rows of a polar's data frame using the cosine similarity. I want the code currently returns only the rows. I want you to fill in the area called, what do we call it? Fill in here. Fill in here with the appropriate, or with the code required such that the cosine similarity for each row is also returned. the function should return a tuple, which is a int or a float representing the similarity and the row information. Here is the function. Let's copy that, give it here, and then also give it to ChatGPT. All right. So what did Bard say? So this is kind of cool. It didn't actually bother copying the entire function. It just basically copied only the part that matters. So you have the cosine similarity, zip cosine similarity of top k indices. Self.df top k iter rows named true. So I think the problem with this is that I don't think this is going to be sorted. Right? That's the issue, is that this cosine similarity is not going to be sorted based on the cosine similarity. Can you modify the code such that the top results in terms of highest cosine similarity are returned? Let's see if ChatGPT also had the same kind of situation going on here. So ChatGPT gave us the full code. It also did the same thing though. It basically just took this MP-ND array and then said here's the top ones. But that's not correct. Let's do that again. The numpy function does not guarantee the order of the k-selected elements. It just puts the top k in the last k places, but not in order. We can use np-argsort to solve this. This function returns the indices that would sort an array. Okay, so you get the similarity by multiplying it with everything in the database. You argsort, you get the k indices. And then you take the top k. This actually seems good. Let's see about this. Sure, here's the modified code that will return top k. Arg partition negative k, top k results. This is fucking bogus. Yeah, what the fuck is this? This is nonsense. All right, let's copy the ChatGPT answer. This one seems good. Copy that. Go to our actual code, and I think we just copied this. All right, so then once we go to our actual use of DB similarity search, it's no longer just going to be a single dictionary, it's going to be a tuple, and it's going to include the actual similarity. And for the description, right, the way that it's currently being rendered, it's basically the title and then a description. Why don't we add an additional part to the description here that says the similarity? So for the description, let's make a little throwaway variable for this. We'll call this description. And there you go. It's literally already, it already knows what we want to put in there, like that. Why am I using GitHub Copilot? Why am I not using GitHub Copilot? You can use GitHub Copilot, right? Like I could have typed it here, so I could have. It's just like, I think like, okay, maybe this is the answer to your question. Like GitHub Copilot is very useful for what I just did here, right? Where I didn't have this part, and I go like this and I just start typing F, and then it like autofills. You know, like that right there, that autofill was GitHub Copilot, which is very useful. But sometimes I want it to basically, I want to ask it more complicated things, such as what I did here, right? This kind of more complicated query. So, and also, GitHub Copilot does not allow you to toggle different language models, right? It just uses the same OpenAI language model. Versus, I want to be able to paste this into Bard, which is a completely separate company than Microsoft, right? And I want to be able to compare. Like, what is the answer that GPT-4 gives me? What is the answer that Bard gives me? So that's another reason. And then a third reason is that the model that's used here, that's built into VS Code, the model is not GPT-4. GPT-4 is actually what is noticeably better at code than whatever model that they use in here. The model that they use in here is probably just some kind of variant of the 3.5, right? So those are 3 different reasons why I go into a separate window and type in the things there. Okay. So this might break. Let's actually see. You see actually here, this is incorrect. See how it's white? That white tells me that it's not, this is actually not the right. So let's go here. Let's go to Bard. Bard is the only one that has knowledge of polars. ChatGPT doesn't know polars very well because polars is a relatively new database. The Python function below has errors in it. The methods .take and .iter rows are for pandas, not polars. Can you rewrite this function such that it uses polars and not pandas? Make sure the functionality of the code is the same. Yeah, it is Polar's bear. Josh Phillips with the puns. Punny Friday. All right. Sure, here's the rewritten function using polars. Wait, you can just use a dot product? Polars has a dot product built in? Dude, if this works, this is fucking crazy. So I'm gonna copy that. I'm gonna comment this out though, real quick. I don't want to just delete what I currently have there, so let's just comment it out and then put it in. What does it not like out of this? I think you need to do this. Dude, if this works, this is gonna be so sick. Oh, it's gonna give us an error because the paper's already posted. Okay. All right. Paperbot is hungry. We need to give it so many different papers here. Fine-tuning models with just forward passes. This sounds good. Running add paper. Adding paper, looking for similar papers. Kind of feels like it errored out. Yeah, there you go. Okay. It was too good to be true. I was like, holy shit. There's a dot product built into fucking polars, but there is not. The Bard lied to us. There is no dot product. Okay. Let's see if we can make this whole again. So we gotta do this part. We gotta turn it into NumPy arrays again. DF embeddings, NP array, cosine similarity, arg sort, top K indices. Okay. That looks correct. Let's run it. God, this already posted error, dude. Every time we need to come up with a new paper. This is a little, maybe we should delete papers. Running behavior, add paper, looking for similar papers. Cannot get item on series of D type UTF-8 with summary of type class string. What is going on here? So line 523, it's awaiting the behavior. That's fine. Then line 335, paperdict dot summary. Let's put a breakpoint right here. Something's going on. Breakpoint, save, run it again. Come here, we're gonna need another paper. Let's find another paper. Let's do this one, tree of thoughts. Add paper. Looking for similar papers, right, here you go. So paperdict. Okay, so you see our similarity search is no longer returning the entire, it's only returning the indices. What about similarity? Similarity? Yeah, not only is it wrong, but it's also because it's returning 3 IDs and then a single similarity. So this whole fucking like tuple thing here is garbage. So one thing we could do is we can make a new data frame and then add this as a column and then sort it. That just feels so gross. Let's see. Add, create new data frame with cosine similarity as column. Can you do that? Nope. See if we add polars, does it know? Can you do that? Actually, that was a better pattern before because we don't want to copy all the information. Let's just do only the what are the only things that we need? We need the abstract, or we need the title, the URL, and then the summary. So let's do that. Title, URL, and summary. df title, URL, summary. Let's make that a throwaway variable there. Just join that. Join the two data frames, sort by cosine similarity. Get the top k rows. I think it would be df.head. Also sort and join. None of these are even fucking polars. That means that here, this is no longer going to be a tuple. This is now going to be a similar paper. And let's do similarity equals similar paper cosine sim. Summary. Yeah, there you go. That's what I want. And then here, let's do similar paper, title, and URL. Okay, this is still fucking broken though. How do you do a join? Join the two polars data frames. You can do that? That would be kind of good. Nice, okay. You could probably do that. That's pretty cool. This is not good, though. Let's ask Bard. Reset. Reset. Can you fix this line of Python code that uses polars and sorts the data frame by a column called code. I don't need the name of the column. I think the problem here is that there's no dot sort. Does polars have a dot sort? Yes, polars has a dot sort. Are you sure about that? I don't know. I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true, Bard. Trying to fuck with me, Bard? Key error, title URL summary. I think we need to do this. Let's also put a breakpoint here just so we can... Oh, it probably did have a dot sort. It's just the problem was that because this was incorrect, it wasn't correctly finding these because the type wasn't being correctly assumed. Let's put that there. Paperbot has entered the chat. Oh, what the fuck is going on here? I went to the RWKV. At Paperbot. Ending page, found paper, adding the paper, looking for similar papers. Here you go. Let's step through this. Data frame not support series assignment. Use data frame with columns. Okay. Let's do this. Let's see how little we can get away with here. Reset chat. Fix this code for me. You cannot assign a series like this. This is a very bad prompt, but I kind of want to see how capable. Problems you're trying to send a NumPy array to a polar series. No polar series are a type of data frame. PL series cosine sim dot two polars. There's a two polars? There's no way. Can I actually do that? No, that's a bunch of fucking lies. Dot two polars is not a valid NumPy function. You are correct. Dot two polars is not a valid NumPy. You can use the dot from NumPy. Is that even real? Is that real? pl.series.pl.from NumPy? I guess that is a real thing. Let's put a breakpoint there so we can run into that and then copy paste, make sure it even works. We need to find another paper. It's kind of annoying that I keep having to try to find papers, but in a way, this is also just populating our database, which means that we should get more interesting results, you know? All right, should breakpoint here. Boom. Let's see. First of all, let's check what cosine similarity is. So let's go into the debug console. It's an array. That's fine. What if we do this? Series constructor called with unsupported type got a class polars.dataframe.dataframe. I just feel like this doesn't fucking work. What if you just do this? What does this return? This returns a 10 by 1 data frame with one column. That's kind of what I want. Can I just do this, but without this pd.series crap? Can I say underscore df? What is underscore df? It's a data frame that has 10 rows and 3 columns. The columns are title, URL, and summary. That's what I want. That's correct. And can I say df of cosine sim equals pl from numpy? Data frame object does not support series assignment by index. Actually, you know what we can do? Let's see if we can use the join. If we say df.join, and then we add df.join, and let's add this pl from numpy. Generally, you don't want to be doing these giant joins. Joins can be very expensive. Must specify on or left on and right on. Okay, so whenever you're doing a join operation, there's basically the left and the right, and it's like, what are you joining them on? Are you joining them on a specific column? Are you joining them on the index? There's a whole web of intensity when it comes to joining and unions, and if you've ever dealt with SQL, you know that pain. So I think what we want is we just want join on index. So how do you do that? df join on. You know what? I think this is work. Let's actually go to the polars. Polars join or add column on index to existing table. How to add column to a polars data frame using .with columns. Oh, maybe it's because you need to add the name. With column is now deprecated. The correct form is now with columns. Okay. df dot with columns. There we go. That's it. All right, nice. Okay, so with columns. And I think that this PL from NumPy, you can probably pass it some kind of column name. Data schema. Schema, sequence of string data type pairs. Okay, so maybe data schema equals A comma B. So can you do schema equals cosine sim? Perfect. All right, so we have our new little data frame here, and the column with the cosine similarity is a float 64 called cosine similarity. I think this is exactly what we want. So we finally came to the right conclusion, and unfortunately the way that we did it was by looking up the actual API. So a little bit of a fail there for LLM coding, because none of the chatbots were able to give us the right answer here. We had to basically do this. And there we go. Let's run that again. Let's find a new little paper for ChatGPT. Or for our paper bot, sorry. Let's add this bad boy here. Easy Spider, a no-code visual system for crawling the web. Why you would want to crawl the web in a no-code fashion, I have no idea. Ooh, this isn't even an archive paper. Yeah, that's not going to work. It needs to be an archive paper. There we go. Running behavior, add paper. Adding paper, looking for similar papers. Here's the breakpoint. Does this work? Yep, it works. Let's hit next line. df sort by cosine similarity. Let's see if that line works before. Yep, it works. You see it's sorting it. We actually want ascending equals false. Ascending equals false. Did I misspell ascending? Sort, comma, ascending? Ascending? Is there a C? Ascending? Dude, what the fuck? Polars, sort. Polars, data frame, sort. ASCEN. It's like this. Pretty sure that's what I had. Sort got an unexpected keyword argument ascending. What the fuck is it called? Oh, it's called descending. Well, that's a bunch of dog shit. Descending equals true. Yeah, okay, that's what we wanted. Descending equals true. Oh, it's because it did tail. Here we're gonna have to do head. Yeah, so if you do tail is gonna be the last X or K elements. Head is gonna be the first K elements. So we don't actually need this descending. We could have actually done it the other way. Okay, then it arose, and that seems fine. Let's run it. Let's find another paper. What about this one? Ola GPT. It's finding it, found it, adding it to the database, looking for similar papers, found similar papers, and there you go. Look at that. So the most similar paper to Ola GPT is Ola GPT, which makes sense. It found itself, very high similarity with itself. Then the next most similar paper that it found is the Tree of Thought paper at a 0.89 similarity. And then the final paper that it found, which is the most similar, is the Gorilla paper with a 0.83 similarity. So very nice. We probably don't need this the returning itself. You know, that's great for debugging purposes. It's great that it found its own self, but can I do the head but skip the first one? Get the first n rows. What if I do this? What if I comment this out and say return the top k rows but skip the first row? Look at this. df.head of k plus 1 dot tail of k. That's pretty clever. That's a nice little clever little hack there. So it gets the first whatever 3. So in this case, it gets the first 4 rows, and then it takes the last 3 rows of those first 4 rows. Very nice. Very clever Copilot. GitHub Copilot with a clever little solution there. And then another thing I didn't like was here, I want there to be an extra new line. Okay, and then I think we can probably combine these. So you see how this is like spread out in like fucking like 10 lines here? I think we can just basically take this, put it here, get rid of this underscore description. Here in where it says similarity, we can basically just copy this here, put it here. And here where it says similar paper, we can copy that there and put it there. So now we've kind of gotten rid of some lines of code. Here, instead of similar paper, let's come up with a shorter name. Let's call it paper. So it's hit F2 to refactor, then hit paper. And there you go, it'll refactor it. Let's save. Let's do format the document. That'll clean it up for us. Let's come up here. We can get rid of this commented out function that we created. And that's pretty much it. Let's do sort imports just for the memes. Go sort imports, and let's commit this. So we have similarity search on add paper. Perfect. Let's take a sip of yerba mate. Okay. So let's control F for our to-dos. We only have one to-do left, and it's every X seconds automatically post to the channel. Okay. So unfortunately, you see, I don't really know the nature of this Discord.client, right? Like some other person wrote this Discord.client class. I really don't have any good idea about what the fuck this does. Chunk guilds, member cache, shard count, heartbeat timeout, allowed mentions. Like what the fuck is all this crap? I want basically like a cron job. I want something that runs every X amount of time, and I feel like that's common enough that I almost guarantee you that there's probably some kind of abstraction that I should be using for this. Maybe this one, underscore run event, underscore schedule event, self.loop.create task, on error, async setup hook, login, connect, close, clear, start, run. A blocking call that abstracts away the event loop. Token, reconnect, log, runner, self-start. So this is like the master loop here. Async io.run, runner. So basically everything goes through this, and this is where you actually can keyboard interrupt. So much like many Python code bases, literally everything ends up running through one giant try except. It's closed, setter, status. Okay, I'm tired of reading through this, so let's actually just ask Bard. Reset the chat. Reset. I have a class that inherits, or a class in Python, let me make this big, that inherits, or that represents a Discord chatbot. It inherits from discord.client, which is part of the discord.py Python package. I want the bot to post a message every X amount of seconds. What should I add to my class? And we're not going to pop or give it the entire class. Let's just give it kind of like a pared down version. So maybe something like this, right? Note that I have removed some code for brevity. We can just do that. I'm basically going to get rid of everything except for these function statements here. Nope, that's not what I want. Oh. All right, I may have just fucked it up here. It's going to be confused. You can use the tasks.loop decorator from the async.io library. This decorator will create a new task that runs every X seconds. On ready, post message, get the channel ID. Await async.io sleep. Is there a post message? Oh no, you have to do this. You have to start a task on the ready. Start the task that will post a message every 10 seconds. So let's see if that's even a thing. Yeah, it is a thing. Okay, nice. And then what is this post message? It's here. On ready, on message, and let's do this. Define post message, and we're going to have to import async.io library. Import async.io. All right, where are we at? We're somewhere down here. Okay, so post message task. Create task, post message, while true, get the channel ID for the papers channel. We don't actually need this anymore. We have it here, self.channelid. Self.getChannel of self.getChannelID send message. So this is actually what we want. And let's make our message here, and we'll say paperbot is still here, and let's make this 3 seconds just to make sure that this works. Control-Shift-1. Okay, of course it doesn't work. Is this entirely hallucinated, or is this just partially hallucinated? I accidentally closed everything. Oh no, I might have just killed this. Did I just kill? Cancel. Okay, you hit Control P and that'll open up the files, and if you can open up files quickly like that. All right, so let's try to do this again. Exception has occurred, attribute error. loop attribute cannot be accessed in non-async context. Consider using either asynchronous main function and passing it to the async IO run, or using asynchronous initialization hooks such as client.setup hook. Okay, so whatever the fuck ChatGPT gave us is crap. What if we just do this? What if we literally paste this here? Yeah, it doesn't like it. Await only allowed in async function. Can I just literally say self.post message? Yeah, the LLMs suck at the async stuff, dude. That's because humans suck at async as well. I'm pretty sure you probably can't do this. But let's see. Yeah, dude, I mean, if you've ever had to deal with like multi-threading and multi-processing in Python, dude, like that is heinous. Paperbot has entered the chat. Let's see if it says anything. Okay, that's definitely been more than 3 seconds, so obviously nothing has happened. All right, let's go to the actual Discord.py GitHub examples. Here we go. Background task. Advanced startup, background task, async IO, edits, deleted, custom content, basic voice, basic bot, maybe background task. Create the background task and run it in the background. Task runs every 60 seconds. This seems like exactly what we want. Okay. Let's do this. On ready. And then we also need to make this, whatever this is, async def setup hook, create task, and we're going to create the post message. Await, wait until ready. Let's just copy paste this and then we'll replace it with our thing. Task runs every 60 seconds. Let's make it run every 3 seconds. Let's put this here. And let's replace this with this. Let's put the counter in here. And there we go. All right, let's try that. There you go. Paperbot is still here at 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so I think if you're going to be using weird libraries like this Discord Python library, like, unfortunately, even this file, right? If you look at actually the history for this file, this was updated 2022, 2022, 2022, 2021. So, like, ChatGPT, even if it was trained on all of GitHub, it only knows up until this, right? So any library that is like actively being developed is not going to be, you're not going to be able to use ChatGPT or Copilot or even Bard. I think Bard even has this issue. It's not as bad. I think Bard gets probably trained more frequently than GPT, but you have this issue that anything that changes over time, and most code changes over time if it's being actively developed, you're going to run into issues. Okay. So that works. What do we actually want to do in the message though? And let's actually put some variables here. So let's say channel name. We definitely don't want this variable here. We want like some variable that stores this. So let's make a variable. Let's call it update interval. Say 10 seconds. And we'll store it here. Self.update interval. And then here we'll use self.update interval. Oh, what the fuck just happened? What the fuck? Did you guys see that? Copilot just like auto-completed like some weird thing there. Generate an embedding of the Discord library and feed it to GPT. Just real quick. So, I mean, embeddings are lossy, right? It's like you're when you create an embedding, you're compressing that information. So it's not going to have everything in there, right? So don't believe the people that think you can compress a book into an embedding and then just put that in your prompt and then that's it. Like anytime you're reducing the dimensionality of data, it's going to be lossy. Unless there's kind of a redundancy in that data. And that's kind of its own field. Okay, what are we at? So we have the update interval now. I guess we need to get this message. I don't really care about this counter. Let's get rid of that. Why don't we do a little GPT here? You guys want to do that? Let's have a little GPT chat. Yeah, right here. So rather than saying emoji name is still here, we'll say message, GPT text. The system will be IM, right? IM is just a variable that I create at the very top here, a global variable that basically says what is this fucking bot. So this, every time you send it to an LLM, you have this system prompt which kind of tells the LLM what it is. So you are Paperbot, an archive chatbot. That's what this IM is. And for the prompt, let's say give us an update on how you are doing. And we'll say message, which is going to be a string, is going to come back out of that. And then we'll say the message, just add there you go. And let's actually do this. Let's send it. Let's change the update interval to less just so we can debug this a little bit better. Let's do 3 seconds again. All right. Paperbot has entered the chat. As an AI language model, I don't have feelings and emotions, but I'm functioning properly. Okay, and it actually gives us the same fucking thing every single time. Well, that's kind of lame. All right, that's lame. That's not funny. You know, we want something funny. Let's do something funny. Let's do... say something short and funny. And we also need a space right here. Why did the tomato turn red? Because it saw salad dressing. Okay, so the problem here is that it's basically saying the same thing every time. We need to give it a much higher temperature, right? So there's this parameter that you pass in here into the GPT text. And right now it's set to 0, but let's set the temperature to 1. So that will make it more random. So at least we're going to get a different one every time. Why do programmers prefer dark mode? Because light attract bugs. Why did the tomato turn red? Because it saw the salad dressing. Why did the tomato turn red? Why did the scarecrow win an award? Because he was outstanding in his field. I like how it adds like emojis. All right, pretty good, little paper bot. I like it. All right, so let's kill that. Save it. What are we at right now? How much time have we been doing this? Almost at 2 hours. All right. So let's kill it. Control-Shift-G. We'll say post a joke every X seconds. Let's actually go up here, scroll, change this to 10. We'll add, commit, sync. And if we control F to do, this is the last to do, which is what we just did. So let's just delete it. Guess we forgot, but remove to do. And push. So that's it, guys. We did a bunch of different to-dos. Maybe a little quick summary of the stream today. So what did we do today? We messed with our little local database. We added basically an embedding column for all the different embedding values for the summary. This allowed us to do a similarity search where we basically find the most similar papers. Every time you post a paper on this little bot, it'll give you the most similar papers, and then give you the actual similarity score. What else? We also, damn. Yeah, I think that's pretty much all we did, to be honest. I feel like we spent just a bunch of time doing that. But anyways, that is the stream. I'm going to go do actual work, but it was nice hanging out. Hope you guys have a good weekend. I hope this was useful. If you guys are interested in this code, you can go ahead. You can find it here on my GitHub. It's hupo-paperbot. But yeah, thanks for hanging out. Good programming day. Time for alcohol. Maybe a little bit too early for the alcohol, but you know. Yeah, see you guys later.